the story of a people chosen, a promise given, and the perilous fragility of human memory. The children of Israel, planted by a divine hand in a land flowing with milk and honey, held a gift, a birthright not of blood alone, but of faithfulness. Their peace was predicated on obedience, their prosperity a reflection of their devotion to the singular, living power who had delivered them from bondage, the great I Am, Yahweh. But with the passing of generations, the fire of that memory grew dim. The awe-inspiring miracles that parted the sea and toppled the walls of Jericho faded into the embellished tales of grandfathers, losing their power to shape the present. The sacred covenant, the very constitution of their nationhood, was set aside. The laws and statutes that were their wisdom and their lifeblood were forgotten. In a tragic and willful amnesia, they turned their backs on the unseen creator and bowed their faces to the seen creation. They craved gods they could touch and control, and so they embraced the dead idols of the Canaanites. They built high places for Baal, the storm god who promised rain but delivered only emptiness. And they carved Asherah poles, wooden effigies of a goddess who offered fertility but bore no life. They exchanged the infinite glory of Yahweh for the mute and impotent works of their own hands. And so, as a loving father must discipline a rebellious child, the hedge of divine protection was lowered. Judgment came, not as a thunderbolt from heaven, but as a storm of men from the desert. For 7 long and agonizing years, Yahweh delivered Israel into the suffocating grip of the Midianites. They were not an army of occupation seeking to govern. They were a force of pure consumption. They descended from the east like a biblical plague, their warriors a multitude, their camels as countless as the grains of sand on the seashore, a moving continent of hunger and violence. They were a shadow that blotted out the sun, a relentless scourge sent to strip the land bare. The very scent of the land changed. The sweet aroma of wheat fields ready for harvest and the rich perfume of overflowing wine presses were replaced by the acrid, ever-present stench of smoke and decay. Wide cinematic vistas would show a paradise lost, a landscape brutalized and scarred. Green valleys were now charred and blackened earth. The cruel genius of the Midianites was in their timing. They would allow the Israelites to toil, to plow and to plant, to nurture the hope of a harvest. And just as that hope was about to be realized, they would swarm in, a whirlwind of terror, and leave nothing but devastation in their wake. The ox, the sheep, the donkey, the very engines of an agricultural life were driven away. The grain, the wine, the oil, the sustenance, joy, and light of the people were gone. Israel, the chosen, was left to starve in the land of plenty. Pride turned to panic. The people abandoned their homes and villages, fleeing the fertile plains for the cold and barren mountains. They became a nation of fugitives, hiding in the earth from which they were meant to reap a bounty. They made their homes in dens, in caves, in the crags of rocks, and hastily built strongholds. A deep, gnawing fear became the air they breathed, a poverty of spirit that was even more crippling than their hunger. It was only then, in the depths of their self-inflicted misery, when every human hope had been extinguished, that the cries of the people finally turned upward. In their arrogance and prosperity, they had forgotten Yahweh, but in their agony and desperation, they remembered. Our story narrows its focus here, finding its heart not in a king's court or a general's tent, but in a place of concealment, in a symbol of their shame. We find a man named Gideon from the clan of Abiezer in the tribe of Manasseh. He is not a prince or a prophet. He is a farmer without a field. We find him in a winepress, a pit dug into the rock, not crushing grapes, but threshing wheat. He works below ground level, hidden from view, beating the stalks with hurried, anxious strokes. Every rustle of the wind, every bird's call is a potential threat. His eyes dart constantly to the rim of the pit, his body coiled like a spring, ready to flee. He is the perfect embodiment of his nation, diminished, terrified, and reduced to salvaging scraps in secret. And it is into this pit of fear that a shaft of divine light penetrates. An angel of Yahweh, a messenger of the Most High, appears. He does not announce himself with thunder or a chorus of angels, but simply is, seated in quiet authority under a nearby oak tree. He watches Gideon for a moment, then speaks. His words are not of pity or condemnation. They are a declaration of a reality Gideon cannot see, a destiny hidden beneath his fear. Yahweh is with you, the angel's voice resonates, cutting through the man's terror. You mighty man of valor. Valor? The word is an absurdity, a cruel joke. Gideon freezes, his hands still clutching the grain. He sees no valor. He sees only a coward hiding in a hole in the ground. The greeting is so profoundly disconnected from his experience that it ignites a spark of long-suppressed anguish. He looks at the divine being, and the dam of his people's suffering breaks. In his reply, we hear the voice of a man in a nation on the brink of utter hopelessness. Staring up from the pit, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs, Gideon processes the angel's greeting. Mighty man of valor. The words hang in the still air, a profound and almost laughable contradiction to his cowering existence. His response is not one of reverence, but of raw, unfiltered pain, the protest of a soul that feels utterly abandoned. Oh, my Lord, he challenges, his voice cracking with the grief of his people. If Yahweh is with us, then why has all this befallen us? Where are all his miracles that our fathers told us about? They spoke of a mighty hand that brought us out of Egypt, a power that parted seas. But now Yahweh has forsaken us. He has cast us aside and delivered us into the clenched fist of Midian. This is not the cynical doubt of an unbeliever. It is the wounded cry of a believer who can no longer reconcile the stories of faith with the reality of suffering. It is the question that echoes in every human heart during times of trial. The angel of Yahweh does not offer a theological treatise or a rebuke for his lack of faith. Instead, the divine response is a redirection. It answers Gideon's question of why with a commission of you. The angel's gaze is piercing, seeing past the frightened farmer to the chosen instrument within. Go in this might of yours, the command is given, and you shall save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have I not sent you? This might of yours? Gideon is dumbfounded. The only might he possesses is the strength to thresh a little wheat in secret. He immediately protests, laying his inadequacy bare. Oh, my Lord, how can I save Israel? Indeed, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. He is a nobody from a family of nobodies, from a tribe of little consequence. He is volunteering his own resume of insignificance as proof of his disqualification. But the mission was never contingent on Gideon's resume. The angel provides the true source of power, the foundational promise for every impossible calling. Surely I will be with you, and you shall defeat the Midianites as if they were but one man. The promise is immense, but for a man saturated in fear, words are not enough. He needs a tangible sign, a seal upon this divine encounter. He implores the messenger to wait while he prepares a humble offering, a young goat boiled, and some unleavened bread. He brings this meal, not as a sacrifice, but as a gift of honor, and presents it. The angel then instructs him, take the meat and the unleavened bread, and lay them on this rock, and pour out the broth. Gideon obeys. Then in a moment of sublime and terrifying power, the angel reaches out with the staff in his hand and touches the offering. There is no kindling, no spark. Fire erupts from the cold, dead rock itself, a supernatural, all-consuming flame that instantly devours the meat and the bread. As Gideon stares in awe and terror, the angel of Yahweh vanishes. The truth crashes down upon him. This was no mere angel. He has been in the presence of the Most High himself. A new, more profound fear grips him, the ancient terror of a mortal who has seen the face of the divine. Alas, O Lord Yahweh, he cries, for I have seen the angel of Yahweh face to face. But a voice of peace settles his spirit, and he builds an altar on that spot, naming it Yahweh Shalom. The Most High is peace, a monument to the moment his terror was transformed into awe. That very night, the first test of Gideon's new calling begins. Faith cannot remain a private experience. It must manifest in public action. Yahweh commands him to perform a radical, dangerous act of spiritual cleansing. Tear down the altar of Baal, which your father has, and cut down the wooden Asherah pole that is beside it. He is to desecrate the central point of his own village's idolatry, an altar owned by his own father. Then he is to build a proper altar to Yahweh in its place and sacrifice his father's prize bull upon it, using the wood of the pagan idol as fuel. This is a declaration of war, not first against Midian, but against the sin within Israel itself. Knowing the uproar it will cause, Gideon, still battling his fear, takes 10 trusted servants and executes the command under the cloak of deepest night. The splintering crash of the Asherah pole and the thud of Baal's altar stones being toppled are the first revolutionary sounds of Israel's liberation. When morning comes, the town is in an uproar. Their gods have been violated. An investigation quickly reveals Gideon as the culprit. A mob forms, dragging him before his father, Joash, demanding his son be put to death for his blasphemy. But something has shifted in Joash. Seeing his son's audacious courage, he is filled with a new spirit. He stands before the angry crowd and delivers a challenge dripping with divine irony. "Will you contend for Baal?" he shouts. "Will you save him? If he is a god, let him contend for himself because someone has torn down his altar." The logic is unassailable. The mob disperses, confused and silenced. From that day, they give Gideon a new name, a title of honor born from the conflict, Jerubbaal, which means, "Let Baal contend with him." The spirit of Yahweh then clothes Gideon, and he blows the trumpet, the shofar, to summon the tribes. Yet as the men begin to gather, and he looks toward the valley where the enemy camps, the immensity of the task presses in on him once more. He needs one final personal confirmation. He approaches Yahweh not with defiance, but with the plea of a man about to lead thousands to their death. He devises the test of the fleece. He lays a fleece of wool on the dry ground of the threshing floor. "If there is dew on the fleece alone, and it is dry on all the ground," he prays, "then I will know that you will save Israel by my hand." The next morning the sign is given. The fleece is so wet he wrings a full bowl of water from it, while the surrounding earth is dust. Still, a nagging sliver of natural explanation could remain. He asks for the miracle to be inverted, a dry fleece on dewy ground. With infinite patience for the frailties of human faith, Yahweh obliges. The next morning the ground is wet with dew, but the fleece is perfectly dry. The conversation is over. The tests are complete. Gideon's faith, forged in fear, fire, and fleece, is finally ready for the crucible of war. The call of Gideon's trumpet had stirred the dormant heart of Israel. From the hills and valleys of Naphtali, Asher, Zebulun, and his own Manasseh, men came pouring forth. A wave of renewed hope, of nationalistic fervor, crested at the well of Harod, the well of trembling. Before Gideon stood an army 32,000 strong, a formidable sea of humanity, a bristling forest of spears and swords. For the first time in 7 long years, the possibility of retribution, of reclaiming their dignity and their land, felt real. Looking out upon this vast assembly, Gideon must have felt a surge of human confidence. The odds were still long against the Midianite horde, but with such a force, victory was no longer a madman's dream. It was a strategic possibility.